Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Boykin, and I'm here in lockdown Boulder Creek, California. I am joined this morning by my good friend Jason Carney. How you doing, brother?
How goes it? How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's well.
I want to start real quick because if you've followed the show at all, one of the things that you've heard me consistently say is without free and fair elections, we don't have any real chance of having actual representation or political agency. And friend of the show and friend of the Free Assange Vigils, Tim Canova, has really made this into, I don't know, a life pursuit at this point. Tim has been hitting election integrity really, really hard over the last couple of years. And why wouldn't he be? He was screwed out of two different elections. If you remember in 2016, he was running as a Democrat against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She used every conceivable means to yank that election away from him. Fast forward to 2018. Where he ran as a progressive independent, and miraculously got 5% of the vote in every category all across the board, the odds of which are the exact same as getting struck by lightning while bit by a shark on a golf course. Serious fuckery in Broward County. It's become notorious. Brenda Snipes had to step down from her position as supervisor of that county, which was barely even a slap on the wrist. Debbie Wasserman Schultz has faced zero consequences for being the face of corruption in the Democratic Party. And the Awan brothers, who still to this day have never seen the inside of the courtroom, have been an integral part in not just laundering money, but facilitating all manner of crimes related to election integrity. So Tim has a new petition out that if it reaches 100,000 signatures, the White House has to look at it. And the point that Tim has been making is that it's actually in Donald Trump's best interest to want to have paper ballots. So he's trying to get it in front of the White House. I believe we have that petition. If you could pull it up, please, Josh, I would appreciate it.
Can I throw in one thing?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
The chairwoman of Broward County was given the boot for committing a felony. She disposed of the paper ballots, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, any evidence of receipts of votes for Broward County. And I don't think she served any time for it. I know that she was forced to step down, but I don't know if it was 2016 or 2018, the results, but I know she almost immediately got rid of all the ballots for that county.
Oh yeah, no, that was 2016.
Okay, yeah, I just want to throw that in. That's why she had to step down.
Yeah, that was 2016, where they sued.
Right.
And when they went to go collect what had become evidence, she said, we don't have it because I destroyed them.
And that's a felony. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and again, all she did was step down. So slap on the wrist for that. In 2018, we saw a video of people just loading boxes full of ballots into the backs of Enterprise rental trucks. At no point was there second party or third party affidavit signed. There was no chain of custody. With these, it was just absolutely 100% illegal. So because Tim is a friend of the show, I told him that we would get this petition out and circulating. I'm not a big fan of the petition process. But again, if it does reach 100,000, then the White House has to take a look at it. So go ahead and, if you don't mind, take about 10 seconds out of your day to sign this thing and share it. There's a article in Medium, which I think we tried to pull up briefly here, that we're going to go over a little bit, because it does touch on the election fraud. And Tim was pretty upfront about, yeah, I read this, and that's when I decided to go ahead and start the petition. It covers the fact that I'm trying to figure out a decent way to say this, but we all know that fucking Gropey Joe, the Delaware daughter sniffer, has fucking dementia. His brain is old pudding, and there are a couple of brain cells left in that old pudding that are fighting with each other, because one's trying to grab a 12-year-old and the other one's trying to voter shame someone, and they can't hold those two conflicting ideas in their head at the same time. So he ends up doing really stupid shit on camera plenty. And I realize that I'm saying this, and I have occasionally done stupid shit on camera, but I'm not running for the highest office in the fucking country. So let's go to this. Let's go to this article here real quick. There are several clips in it that kind of go out of their way to prove the fact that Joe Biden has the dementia. But let's get to the pertinent bit down here where it says 2020. People who follow election integrity are hardly surprised. The Iowa Shadow App debacle was just a teaser for what was in store. Analyst Teodoro de Marcedo Suarez is tracking massive nationwide discrepancies between adjusted exit polls and reported results. And here's the thing. If you're, by law, if there's a discrepancy of, I believe, 4%, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jay.
Nope, it's fine.
But if the exit polls are off by 4%, it's supposed to trigger an automatic recount. And we saw in nearly every state that's voted so far, a difference in exit polls from like 2.5% to over 15%. Jason, to your knowledge, have there been any recounts?
I don't believe there has been, and I want to give credit to the person who was focusing on the Massachusetts exit polls versus the actual polls, because that was one of the worst states with this discrepancy. It was upwards between 13 and 15% different, and no automatic recount, no recount, nothing was being triggered, and it was such a huge discrepancy. It almost is like looking at a banana republic's vote, if you will. It was that bad from the exit polls to what the actual quote-unquote polls were. And it's one of those things I have not seen. Massachusetts, 96.9% in this article. Carrie Lavender on Medium, trying to give proper credit, states 96.9%. The probability of fraud as follows: South Carolina 79%, Massachusetts 96.9%, and other than Vermont and Texas and California, they're all above 99% for the odds of actual fraud occurring because of the different exit polls versus what was recorded as votes. It's a huge discrepancy, especially Massachusetts. Massachusetts was one of the worst. And why there hasn't been lawsuits about this, I believe it's because Bernie Sanders' campaign people are very timid, are very much about working within the system to change the system, which we all know is not going to work. And I don't know if he's just trying to avoid stepping on toes or what have you, but this campaign has been absolutely horrible from the word day one. They didn't go on with the name recognition. They didn't pursue the Massachusetts alone. And I want to give credit because somebody on Twitter was really good about covering it. And as soon as I find out, I'll make sure. They were showing the Massachusetts discrepancies, and they were huge. And yet the campaign never once pursued this as electoral fraud, not questioning it or anything else, being like, hey, we lost Massachusetts. What are you going to do?
So my buddy George, down in LA, was a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer in 2016, and he's one of those people who like um, just really kept the hope alive in his heart, and we would get into heated conversations about this, not unsimilar to the ones that you and I have had, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
And and he's like, no, he's got this legal team, and he's got lawyers that are camped out at every polling place, and this guy, we're gonna fucking just sue the pants off the world in order to get election into. None of that shit happened. None of it. And the reason, in my opinion, is because Bernie Sanders isn't there to challenge the system. He's there to absorb people who would otherwise be truly activated to do something about it by giving them something to quote unquote believe in. Where if we can just vote harder and throw more money at this problem, it's going to cure itself. Go ahead.
As a diehard Bernie supporter, I think there's not a single person on the face of this planet, especially with my Twitter presence, creation of people of the 99%. I've got all the cred I need to show that I was a Bernie supporter. If he was serious about winning the 2020 election, he would have had a massive overhaul of the campaign staff and try to go with more aggressive people who would actually fight for the cause. Because if you want this cause, what you're fighting for, you want this movement to work, you can't depend on the mainstream media. You can't depend on the rules as is. You can't depend on the status quo to get things changed. And so I felt from, like I said, the word go, even while he was winning in Nevada and New Hampshire and Iowa with the popular vote, before anybody tries to come at me, and, before the debacle in South Carolina, I was saying that they're not being aggressive in attacking the other candidates. My good friend Joe, my good friend Kamala, things of that nature. This is not a time for being polite, and etiquette has to go out the window when the nation is facing, within 12 years, an environmental catastrophe, when we're facing income inequality, when we're looking at COVID-19 right now, and people are arguing those with mental disabilities should be cast aside for people who don't have them for hospital beds. We are having an argument about Medicare for all, UBI. COVID-19 alone has shown how horrible this nation is and the divide. If you were truly about that life, as some of my friends would say, you would have gone with a far more aggressive campaign manager, far more aggressive attorneys, because people are showing this all over Twitter, the discrepancies. And yet I haven't seen the Sanders campaign take up any of these very awesomely researched points. And I'm a Sanders supporter saying that.
I was talking to Susie Dawson not too long ago, and she was like, "Did you watch Hillary's fucking bullshit documentary on Hulu?" And we went, "No." And she was like, you should, because the doc itself follows her on the campaign trail from as early as midsummer 2015. And there's a moment there where she's being asked about Bernie Sanders. And this could be just the pure cynicism of a sociopathic lizard person, but she kind of chuckles. And she's like, "Oh, that's just his thing. That's what he does. He talks this talk, but when rubber meets the road, he'll fall in line like a good little soldier. I guarantee it, because that's who he is. This is rhetoric, but when we need him to fall in line for the Democratic Party, he's going to do that." And sure as shit, we find out through WikiLeaks that as far back as May of 2016, Robbie Mook was writing emails to Bernie supporters as Bernie Sanders, telling people that were Bernie delegates to, sit on their hands and behave at the convention and send some money. Those were the two consistent things in all of those campaign emails the entire month of May. We still have a pathway to victory, but, you know, be nice when you're at the convention.
Here's the biggest thing that I always found entertaining, even going back to 2016 and that debacle. When you donate to Bernie Sanders' campaign, it goes through the Act Blue.
Yep.
And I was thinking to myself, okay, if we were really trying to foment a revolution that is pro-American worker, pro-poverty, pro-people of color, women. If we were really about this, why are we using Act Blue as a source of campaign contributions? It was always odd to me. And then all that came out, obviously, with WikiLeaks, the great investigation that went with that. And it's, to me, it's like you said, and I hate to say it because I have been a diehard Sanders supporter, and I think I shocked the world on Twitter today when I said if Bernie Sanders endorses a rapist, then I'm done with him. Anything he has to say. And I said, lucky for me, it's been about the movement and not him personally. So whether he's in it or not anymore is irrelevant to me. But if he supports a rapist, I no credibility as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he's going to.
I know.
He signed a loyalty oath to the party.
Have integrity, though. Say no.
Well, that's the thing. If your party is saying we won't let you play unless you pledge your undying loyalty, not to your constituents or not to the American people in general, but to this private organization called the DNC.
He's going to go back to an independent immediately after this election.
But that's the grift, Jason. He runs as a Democrat in Vermont's primary.
Right.
And then he runs as an independent in the general election for his Senate seat or previously for his House seat. But he always changes his party affiliation to run as a Democrat in the primary, so he can't get primaried out, and then runs as an independent. And as long as he caucuses with the Democrats, he's allowed, and that's a real word I'm using there. He's allowed by the DNC to retain that I next to his name. But he has to caucus with the Democrats. He has to sell their bullshit. And that fucking grandstanding that went on the other day on the Senate floor, where he's out there fucking flapping his arms and frothing at the mouth about unemployment insurance, that was a done deal. That shit passed 96-0. He was blaming Rand Paul and I think Justin Amash for not coming on board to support something that was all but unanimously passed, and saying that he did this fucking thing for the people when in fact it was already part of the legislation that was agreed upon. One more time, kids. No gods, no masters. Don't put your fucking faith in politicians. You know, you want to put your faith in something, put it in an institution or outlet like WikiLeaks, because they're not trying to sell you anything, as I sit here with a Vault 7 sweatshirt on.
I was going to say something. Oh, man.
Hey, you know, I want to transition here real quick while we're taking a couple of victory laps. I'm sure everybody has, so we're not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm sure everybody's become aware over the last like 24 or 36 hours that the brand marketed name AOC has come out with a statement saying that she is breaking with Bernie Sanders and is positioning herself as the new leader of the progressive movement by cozying up to Neera Tanden, and by cozying up to what's that fucking guy's name? God damn it!
Well, I'll throw in Pelosi too, because she was calling her the mama bear of the Democratic caucus, and it's like, I look at the situation with Ocasio-Cortez, and I'm glad I was tepid about my advocacy of her. I didn't feel as though she was vocal when she initially got it. That first year, she was a firebrand. She was doing great, but it never went beyond rhetoric. So I was having an issue with that. If she started consolidating the progressives, because the progressive, quote unquote, caucus is the largest segment of the Democrat Party. I put air quotes on that. If she really wanted to make a move against Pelosi, she would have started consolidating that and then looking at other groups who shared alignment with the progressive caucus and started grabbing that. If she was legitimately moving to take power away from centrist and the people like Joe Crowley, the guy she beat. So if she was legitimate about this and it went beyond rhetoric, I would have started seeing some moves. This is power 101, not to sound like a Machiavellian asshole, but you would start aligning with those that have your viewpoint and expand that so that you could take out the decrepit crypt keepers that is a Democratic leadership in the House. But I never saw any of that. I just saw rhetoric. So I started easing up on my advocacy of AOC. I was smart enough to kind of see the tea leaves. And now she's wanting to work with people like Pelosi, with House leadership. There's no way to make this nation a progressive nation working with the status quo. The status quo wants us gone. They're more interested in beating progressives than they are Donald Trump. And you want to work with these people? Are you out of your goddamn mind, AOC?
Well, here's the thing, and you can attest to this, Jason, because I told it to you live on camera before. Mm-hmm. AOC and the Just Us Democrats they were never here to wrest away the power from Chuck and Nancy. They were here to inherit that power, and by inheriting the power, they're going to adapt basically 100% of the ideology that comes along with being in that position of power inside a corrupt and broken on purpose system. I have said from the get-go that you cannot put good people, let alone the kind of people that normally run for office, into a system that is sociopathic and corrupt by design, and expect them to come out with anything other than fucking sociopathic legislation written by corrupt actors. And we see this play out over and over and over again. AOC supported a House bill that became law that gave more blanket immunity to CIA officers. She went and stumped for Pelosi to be Speaker of the House. Because what, if they didn't, they were going to get somebody worse?
Tim Ryan, I believe, was the opposition this time around, wasn't it? Former presidential candidate Tim Ryan from Ohio?
I think so.
But he's a freaking centrist wet dream. He's a nightmare himself.
Every time I saw him on camera, the Sublime song "Date Rape" would just start playing in my head. Like, you would walk out and you hear dun, 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 dun. Like every fucking time, dude.
James Carville, the Democratic Party is the party of coalitions, not a cult.
James Carville. I'm sorry to cut you off. I knew it. All right, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wanted to point that out. The Democrat Party is allegedly the party of coalitions, not a cult, said James Carville, a top strategist for Clinton's 92 campaign and vocal critic of Sanders during the primary. I've observed her, as in saying about AOC. I think she's really talented, that she's really smart. Maybe she is. I don't speak for her. Coming to the conclusion that she wants to be part of the coalition. Anytime you have the crypt keeper speaking positively of you, you're doing something wrong if you're a leftist.
James Carville is what happens when, remember the South Park episode where they were all like farting into a wine glass and sniffing it?
Yeah.
You remember that?
I love that episode.
That James Carville has been sniffing his own farts for so long that when he talks, it's just this self-flagellatory nonsense. And people look at him and they're like, this man is a sage. You know, it's fucking...
Economics 101 has been a part of American presidential politics at least since the turn of the 20th, leading from the 19th century to the 20th century. He acts like he was the brilliant mastermind of it's the economy, stupid. It's been the economy, stupid, for 121 years now. It's been about that. That's what you tapped on. Plus, you had the added benefit of Ross Perot taking away votes from Bush, which led to, and we all acknowledge this, which led to a Clinton victory. I believe it was Songus, if I'm not mistaken, who was taking him on the Democratic primaries. That was where the establishment wanted to go.
That was
Or not
92 when 92 when Carville came out with it's the economy stupid and spoke for the entirety of the Democratic Leadership Commission and the Third Way. The biggest primary challenger to Clinton was Governor Jerry Brown.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I was 11 at the time, so I forget.
Yeah. And they were still trying to call Jerry Brown Moonbeam, and he had to come out like a fucking boxer, and I'm tough on crime, and I don't fucking like these hippies, and fucking no, and just everything that Jerry Brown had previously stood for, he had to deny throughout the course of that campaign. Wow. He was getting next to no fucking media coverage, and you got Bill Clinton on fucking Arsenio Hall playing sax.
I'm about to set you off a little bit more. Neera Tanden, president of the liberal think tank Center for American Progress and longtime Hillary Clinton aide, called Ocasio-Cortez's shift a sign of leadership.
Yeah. When Neera Tanden is in your corner, all of a sudden, it's because the corner that you're standing on is where you sell your ass.
And that's the thing. And further quote, and this is the Political article. I'll give the author credit when I get back up toward the top, but I want to quote this real quick. Instead of supporting Justice Democrats' full slate of incumbent challengers, Ocasio-Cortez launched her own PAC earlier this year that's been more focused on electing progressives in Republican-held or open seats. Ocasio-Cortez declined to be interviewed, but her new communications director, Lauren Hitt, noted that Bush's August 4th primary, Cori Bush from Missouri, great candidate, is still several months away. And let me also add in between, Cori Bush was endorsed originally when she made her first run by Ocasio-Cortez and has been left out in the cold by Ocasio-Cortez this time around. Bush's August 4th primary is still several months away, and that the congresswoman is monitoring other primaries. What do you want me to say? If you're at Ocasio-Cortez, before you call me the Antichrist, one, I'm a socialist above everything else. I'm not a progressive. Two, if it talks like a duck, and it waddles like a duck, and it flaps like a duck, is it a mongoose? No, it's a duck. All these indicators are going toward exactly what Steve and other people. I'll be one of the first people. I'm late to the ball game. It's not that I disagreed. It's that I gave benefit of the doubt. And the author of the Political article, so I don't get in trouble, is Alec Thompson and Holly Otterbein. So
Holly Otterbein is one of the fucking just most inside the bubble, fucking head up your ass, just centrist bullshit fucking peddlers that we've got working right now. Like every time I see her on Twitter, it's because she's wanting to prove how wrong she is about something.
Right.
And this is basically a puff piece.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like, oh, our little girl finally grew up and sold out. Like, bitch, she sold out before she got elected. She was trying to say she was Alex from the block when she grew up in fucking private schools and shit. She's not Alex from the block.
The title is AOC Breaks with Bernie on How to Lead the Left. If you can't see from that title alone that this is a glowing puff piece from centrist establishment types, Politico, then you haven't been in the game long enough. You need to bone up on some stuff, go back to the laboratory, go back to school, figure shit out, and get back with me. That title alone is a centrist puff piece from this particular rag.
Yeah, no, Politico was inside the same office building as The Hill in Washington, D.C. They share an office building. And when we were standing out in front of it, when we were there for the first week of Julian's extradition hearing, we were approached by a guy who worked for The Hill who told us, I support what you guys are doing 100%, but if I acknowledge that I lose my job, the people who worked for Politico were pretty upfront about telling us to get fucked. I mean, that's just the nature of that outlet. They are there to carry the water for the 0.01%. And they do it pretty effectively. Like every once in like 6 months or so, they'll come out with an article that makes sense.
Right.
But if you take it in terms of their entire collection, it's a garbage outlet meant to give political insiders the ability to feel better about themselves for their own confirmation bias.
I think I want to touch on something really quick, because this kind of ties in with a lot that you were talking about initially with independent media. I think we as progressives in the left need to stop looking at individuals. No one's going to play white knight and save our asses. It's up to us and our communities to fight for each other. Let's get that out of the way right off the bat. Whether it's Bernie Sanders, Joe Blow the Eskimo, it doesn't really matter. Whoever. We shouldn't focus on that one individual. We need to focus on each other in our community movements. And I want to go and touch on the independent media aspect of, you got people like Steve, you got people like Glenn Greenwald. There was a long list on my Twitter. Go look at it, The Intercept. I mean, a lot of great pieces that you could read to get the actual facts about a situation and educate yourself, so that when you are a leader in your community, you're making the right moves on behalf of the people that believe in you. This isn't, I want to go back to, it's not about Bernie. It was never about Bernie. It's about the disenfranchised, I guess you could call us malcontents with the American electoral process. It's one of those things where we're not looking at AOC as the leader. I'm not looking at Ilhan Omar. I'm not looking at Presley from Massachusetts. I'm not looking at anybody. I'm not looking at Bernie Sanders as a leader. This is ours. And we have to make it happen. No one's going to come save us. And independent media is where you get your information. You got to listen, you got to hear, you got to do a little bit of digging, but you will get the truth, you will get facts, and you will be able to use that to fight for a better tomorrow for each and every one of us.
Well, and the thing that sucks about independent media is that right now there's at least 3 other live streams going on that exist as de facto Bernie Sanders campaign commercials or for confirmation bias for progressives. And there will be less people on this live stream right now in the chat because it is a much more fun recreational activity to have smoke blown up your own ass by a semi-famous person, you know. And nothing against those people for doing that show. It's just you've been doing that show for 5 years and nothing has changed. And your audience has already learned everything that they're ever going to learn new about the American political process. Which is why the point of this show has always been to highlight the activists and the organizers and the agitators and the people who have stuck their neck way out and have been on the front line of these issues for years and years and years. And to that point, if you watched the live stream yesterday morning, I went into detail about the company Palantir, who's now famously CIA subcontracted company, as well as many other intelligence agencies, now been brought on board by England's National Health Service to track and monitor UK citizens to find out whether or not they're behaving under lockdown. Elizabeth Mueller's work featured heavily in that piece yesterday. In fact, the majority of the information that I got and I shared came off of her Twitter feed. She is a targeted activist. She has been a targeted activist to the point to where her entire world was torn apart because one of the intel agencies inserted somebody into her life. Liz is struggling, like straight the fuck up struggling. And she like wrestled with the decision of whether or not to start a GoFundMe, came to the conclusion that like, fuck, I'm almost out of money. I kind of have to. So right now on the screen, we have that GoFundMe up. If you can, and I'll make sure it gets stuck. The link gets put into the chat too. If you can donate to this thing, please do. If you can't, please share the link, because sharing the link and making sure other people can see it is really, it's really just as important as donating yourself. I can speak to that from experience. When we crowdfunded the DC trip and sending Taylor to London, circulating it helps. And yeah, dude, she's in pretty dire straits, and as a researcher, she's basically irreplaceable. As a human being, she's truly irreplaceable. So if you can help her out, please do.
And let me throw this out there. We're not the types to throw up just anybody's GoFundMe. We vet, we work with these people, we know who they are. That's why they go up. It's not just some rando, you know, GoFundMe, take care of this, blah, blah, blah. It's because Steve or someone else within this tight little circle that we have in our community, we know what they've done, we acknowledge their work, and we know that they're being basically ostracized, and that they're running into problems because of their particular research, positions, what have you. That's why we share these things and we bring them up. It's not just some random GoFundMe, go donate. It's because it is a very serious situation with someone who's helped the community greatly.
And if you see on the screen right now, there is a $100 donation that says it's from the Slow News Day audience. I took the super chats from the last couple of weeks and put those in there. I will match some more. So I have a tweet out about it. If you post your donation into the thread, it will get matched from whatever YouTube ad revenue this generates or whatever, like, because I'm basically out fucking money too, but I still have the ability to work. So I think that's going to do it for the show. I want to thank everyone for hanging out. Thank you, Jason, for coming on with me. Big thanks to Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. Jason, let the folks know where they can find you and what you got going on.
At Paremquern, PAREMQUERN on Twitter. I just wrote a new article. It's put out through Progressive Army. It's at the top of my deal on my Twitter profile page. So go ahead and hit that. Retweet the hell out of that bad boy. Or if you have an issue with it, I'm wide open to debate. I'm not afraid of debate. Let's have a conversation and go from there.
All right. And I'm not slowing down on the content. I do have a couple of days of work that I have to do. So I'm going to be doing more evening streams as opposed to morning streams for the next couple of days. Fantastic lineup for the Free Assange Vigil tomorrow night. We have Joe Kishore, who is running for president on the Socialist Equality Party ticket. He's also I can't remember if he's a contributing editor or if he just writes for World Socialist website, but he's definitely put out a ton of content on the WSWS. And then we're going to be joined by Jared and Elizabeth Beck, which
Nice.
I just tickles my heart, man. It does. I personally love that particular couple, and Jared's been on the show a few times, but Elizabeth hasn't, or at least been on my show. They did a wonderful interview, kind of giving background on the DNC fraud lawsuit and where it was going on Consortium News a couple of months ago. Please go check that out. If you're not hip to Consortium News Live, get hip to that, because it's Joe Loria and friend of the show and frequent flyer here, Elizabeth Voss. Yeah, that'll do it for me. Patreon's kicking. I've got more content coming up there all the time. Have a great interview with Sam Tripoli that's on there. So check that out, patreon.com/slownewsday. I am Steve Poikinen, and good luck to us all.